Hi guys, Ultimate Recaps here. In the deepest corners of the dark web, Schism, an underground fight club, enters the scene. The illegal organization picks the most ruthless psychos and criminals and pits them against one another. Each contestant is forced to fight, and no one is allowed to stop until their opponent is no longer breathing. Schism quickly rises in popularity and soon amasses millions of fans who live stream each fight. Of all the contestants, Nyx, a daredevil fighter, is the fan favorite and easily the most skilled. Nyx is a top-notch psycho who was found criminally insane at 13 and recently escaped from a maximum security facility. After a heated car chase, Nyx takes out her opponents and extends her win streak. In the following scene, we are introduced to our protagonist, Miles. Miles is an asthmatic video game coder with no social life or hobbies besides trolling people on the internet. His ex-girlfriend dumped him a few days ago, and the coder is an all-round loser. One morning, Miles heads for work as usual. However, what the coder doesn't know is that he's about to experience the worst day of his life. Once Miles arrives at work, his boss, Xander, an A-grade bully, pranks and makes fun of him. Miles is pissed, but lacks the courage to stand up to his employer. Later that day, the coder returns home and hops on the internet. Miles stumbles on a Schism chat room and goes off on the organizers for running such a dangerous group. The coder uses his faceless account to hurl insults and rouse strangers in the group, taking out his frustrations on them. Soon, he grabs the attention of the Schism admin, who traces his device and uploads his IP address. Realizing his cover's been blown, Miles frantically drops his laptop and hopes the admin doesn't find him. Moments later, the coder is petrified when a notification pops up on his phone. Miles cautiously opens it and is relieved to discover that the text is from his ex, Nova, a talented comic artist. It turns out, Miles had been sneaking through her socials and accidentally liked one of her photos. Nova confesses she felt bad about their breakup, and Miles schedules a date for them to catch up. Hours later, the coder falls asleep and dreams of kissing his ex. However, his fantasies get interrupted by a loud bang on his door. Miles heads to check who it is and finds a gang of crazy-looking riffraff. Before he can react, they break into his apartment and reveal they're the organizers behind Schism. Rictor, the ringleader, smashes his laptop and orders his henchmen, Dane and Effie, to knock him out. Once Miles passes out, the henchmen take him to a secluded location and conduct multiple inhumane operations on him. The coder wakes up in the middle of it, but Dane knocks him out again. When Miles finally regains consciousness, he is relieved to find himself in his apartment. However, the coder is horrified when he discovers a pair of pistols has been surgically attached to his hands. Each gun is loaded with 50 bullets, and the pistols are embedded in his hands with rods, making them almost impossible to remove. Miles struggles to rip them off, but gives up when the pain overwhelms him. He tries to pick up his phone, but mistakenly fires a shot that nearly deafens him. Miles freaks out, and his anxiety triggers an asthma attack. The troll races to his inhaler and manages to use it just in time. Right then, he returns to his phone and receives a message from his abductors. They announce that he has involuntarily joined Schism and reveal that his first opponent is Nyx. The abductors give him 24 hours to unalive her and drop a long list of warnings threatening to end him if he tries to flee or reject the mission. Meanwhile, at the other end of the city, Nyx goes on a Schism mission and raids a warehouse filled with several armed hitmen. Her opponents are fast and dangerous. However, Nyx is a highly potent shooter and nothing short of a fighting machine. She takes out all her opponents in a snap and steals their ammo when she's done. Moments later, the cops, led by Inspector DeGraves, storm the warehouse. Nyx is a notorious law offender, and thanks to her Schism strikes, is the most wanted person in the city. The cops search the building for the fugitive, but Nyx jumps through a window and escapes before they can reach her. That night, Nyx reaches out to the Schism admin. The fugitive is tired of the underground fight club and opts to leave. The admin agrees and promises to erase her criminal record, but on one condition, Nyx would have to unalive Miles. The next morning, the fugitive disguises herself as an officer and infiltrates a police station. Using the cops' database, she finds Miles's personal details and remotely uploads a tracker to his phone. Meanwhile, back at the coder's apartment, Miles struggles to adapt to his new gun-glued hands. He tries to use the bathroom and spills pee all over his toilet seat. Soon, his phone alarm goes off, and Miles realizes his date with Nova is scheduled to hold in about an hour. He tries to put on some pants but fails. Eventually, he gives up and decides to head out with his underwear. As soon as Miles exits his apartment, he runs into Nix in his hallway. The assassin shoots at him, but the coder luckily dodges and bolts into his apartment. Nix closely follows and fires several shots while Miles jumps and hides behind some furniture. The troll eventually gets shot in the arm and begs his assailant to stop. He explains he wants nothing to do with Schism and narrates how the organizers abducted and operated on him. Nix patiently listens to his story, but it's pretty obvious that the assassin doesn't care about sparing his life. Miles presses a remote, and the TV turns on, playing a scene with gun sounds. Nix reflexively reacts and shoots the screen. While she's distracted, Miles makes a run for it and jumps out of his apartment window. He tries to run down the stairs, but the clumsy troll slips and falls to the ground. Miles quickly recovers and sprints away while Nix fires at him. Meanwhile, a Schism drone appears and live streams the exchange while fans log on to watch. Miles eventually escapes and makes it to a major street. He sees two cops standing at a distance and tries to wave for help. When the officers spot Miles, they see the pistols in his hands and point their guns at him. While they consider their next move, the troll freaks out and races into an alleyway. One of the cops chases after him, and soon, Miles runs out of breath. He tries to reach for his inhaler, but realizes that he left it in his apartment. Right then, the officer catches up and shoots a taser in his back, accidentally firing a shot at the cop's arm. The officer goes down, and the coder spares a moment to check on him. Miles is relieved to find the man is still alive, but sprints off before reinforcements arrive at the scene. He races to the park to meet Nova, and spots her driving off, after believing she's been stood up. Miles jumps into his ex's car and tries to play cool. However, Nix locates him using his tracked cell. Luckily, Nova drives off before the assassin can get to them. At this point, Miles is hyperventilating and badly needs an inhaler. Fortunately, Nova still has one of his and helps him use it. The ex-girlfriend instantly recognizes that Miles is acting strange and questions him about it. After some persuading, the troll finally comes clean and tells her Skims is targeting him. To corroborate his wild story, he shows Nova his hands. The ex-girlfriend immediately freaks out and pepper sprays his face before racing out of her car. Miles jumps out of the window, stumbles blindly across an alleyway, and ends up in a trash bin. A Skims drone records his every move, and hundreds of thousands of fans log on to watch him. The troll eventually rolls out of the trash bin after finding a pair of pants. He struggles to put them on and gets frustrated when he fails. Tired of living, Miles tries to unalive himself, but gets stopped by a homeless hobo sitting in a corner. The man helps him put on some pants and shoes, and afterward, Miles realizes he's hungry. The coder begs for food, and the hobo offers him a dirty-looking sausage that's over 8 months old. Miles is disgusted, but his desperation gets the better of him, and he eats it anyway. Moments later, the coder wonders how Nix was able to find him at the park, and realizes his phone has been bugged. Miles thanks the homeless man and heads to his old workplace to get rid of the tracker. On his way there, he stumbles on a random stranger, and the man recognizes him from the Skims broadcast. Miles learns he's slowly becoming famous, as his unusual livestream has gained the Fight Club millions of new viewers. Eventually, the coder reaches his office and recruits his colleague Hadley to debug his phone. Hadley helps him deactivate the tracker, but also adds a feature allowing him to reactivate it whenever he chooses. While doing this, Xander walks in and confronts Miles. Per usual, the boss bullies Miles and tries to get a rise out of him. Frustrated, the troll goes off on Xander and points his gun at him. The boss immediately cowers and begs Miles not to unalive him. Just as the coder is about to put his gun away, a bullet blasts Xander's face off, and Miles discovers Nix is responsible for the shot. The assassin shoots at her target, and Miles runs for cover. He tries to return fire, but the coder is a terrible shot, and his bullets hit the ceiling. Miles crawls through the office and retrieves his phone from Hadley, after which he tries to escape. Hadley shoots a toy gun at Nix's face to distract her, while Miles exits the office. The coder runs to the building's parking lot and hijacks a car from a driver. He narrowly escapes while Nix shoots at him and drives out of the building. On the street, Miles struggles to navigate the vehicle with his gun hands and tries to avoid traffic. Meanwhile, Nix steals a motorbike and chases after her target. She catches up to Miles and tries to shoot at him from the side, but the troll bumps the car into her. Nix eventually changes tactics and drives the bike on top of Miles's vehicle. She breaks through his windscreen and tries to smoother him with her tires. Miles tries to dodge and ends up colliding with an oncoming car. Both parties are thrown off their vehicles and land on the street. Miles is the first to wake up and limps away while Nix follows in hot pursuit. He stumbles into an abandoned building and the assassin shoots at him. Miles returns fire, but his shots are so pathetic that Nix feels sorry for him. The assassin gives him a few shooting tips, but the troll is uninterested and begs her to leave him alone. Nix refuses and explains she needs to unalive him so Skims can erase her criminal record. While she talks, Miles applies Nix's shooting tips and lands a shot on her arm before bolting off. Soon, the assassin catches up, and Miles targets a gas pipe behind her. The pipe goes off in flames, and when Nix sees the fire, she begins to have a panic attack. The assassin replays a traumatic fire incident from her childhood, and Miles finally has a perfect opportunity to end her. However, the troll opts against it and runs off, sparing her life. At the other end of town, Nova reports what happened with Miles to the police. Nova is worried about her ex-boyfriend and asks Inspector DeGraves and his colleague Stanton to help find him. The inspector learns that Nix is after Miles and sees a golden opportunity to catch the fugitive. After Nova leaves, DeGraves remotely tracks her phone in case Miles tries to call her. Meanwhile, the coder tries to run away from town and FaceTimes his ex-girlfriend to say goodbye. During their call, Rictor and his henchmen abduct Nova. The Skims boss gives Miles 5 hours to unalive Nix and threatens to harm his ex-girlfriend if he doesn't comply. Determined to save Nova, Miles ditches his escape plan and returns to the city. He heads to a junkyard and reactivates the tracker on his phone, allowing Nix to find him. After which, he calls the police to arrest the fugitive and provides his current location. While exploring the junkyard, he stumbles on 2 rival gangs in the middle of a drug exchange. He tries to walk away, but the hoodlums spot the troll and hold him at gunpoint. They're about to unalive him when Nix arrives at the scene. The crazy hitwoman opens fire with a machine gun, spraying bullets in every direction. The hoodlums go down like flies, leaving the gang leader as the sole survivor. Amidst the chaos, Miles makes a run for it, and the mafia boss chases after him. The gang leader shoots at Miles, but the coder returns fire and lands a bullet in his neck. The mafia boss bleeds out, and Miles is horrified when he realizes the man is no longer breathing. He tries to flee the scene, but a SWAT team raids the area and arrests him, while Nix manages to get away. DeGraves and Stanton take Miles in, and the inspector reveals he plans to use the coder as bait to lure Nix. While they wait for the fugitive, DeGraves tells Miles a story from his past. 16 years ago, the inspector went after a notorious gang led by Rictor. After apprehending the kingpin, Rictor posted bail and was released from jail. Livid, the psychotic Skims boss swore to take revenge on DeGraves and chose to target the inspector's family. Rictor set DeGraves' car on fire, and with it, his wife and 2 kids. Sadly, his son and wife passed away, but the inspector was able to save his daughter. In a shocking turn of events, DeGraves reveals that Nix is his surviving daughter, who turned crazy after the traumatic event. As a result, the inspector believes it's his obligation to take her down and will stop at nothing to achieve his goal. After DeGraves completes his story, Stanton pulls into a secluded area and shoots the inspector in the head. Right then, the officer reveals he's actually a double agent who has been working for Rictor the entire time. He pulls Miles out of the car and plays a pre-recorded message from the Schism boss. Rictor tells Miles he has 30 minutes to unalive Nix, or else his ex is as good as gone. After delivering the message, Stanton leaves the scene. Meanwhile, Miles retrieves his phone from DeGraves' body and notices the inspector is wearing a bulletproof vest. Thanks to the help of a hacker, Miles traces Nova's phone and heads for a van parked in a secluded street. When the door opens, he finds Rictor and his henchmen waiting for him. There's also an abductee with a covered face, and Miles assumes it's Nova. Right then, Rictor shoots the faceless captive, and Miles screams in horror as the gang speeds away. When Miles uncovers the body, he discovers that the captive was actually his colleague, Hadley. Pissed, the coder finally decides to end this once and for all. He toggles his phone tracker back on, and Nix finds him in a junkyard. Miles tries to reason with her. However, the assassin's mind is made up, and she doesn't waste any time before she shoots him in the chest. Miles falls to the ground, and Schism fans all over the world cheer as the lengthy chase finally comes to an end. Minutes later, 2 Skims guards retrieve his body and return to their base. As they try to dispose of the corpse, Miles is revealed to be alive and shoots them both in the head. Miles rushes to open the gate, and shortly after, Nix drives in. In a flashback scene, we discover that Miles and Nix met up right after De Graves passed on. The coder reveals Rictor was not only the mastermind behind her father's tragic demise, but also the one responsible for her family's fire accident. Miles tells Nix that Rictor recruited her to Schism to ensure she doesn't get revenge, and the duo decides to join forces to take down the organization. They agree to infiltrate Schism's headquarters and orchestrate a plan where Nix pretends to unalive Miles. The assassin helps Miles put on De Graves' bulletproof vest, and the duo sets their plan in motion. Back to the present, Miles and Nix break into Schism's building and take down many guards. During the fight, Miles exhausts most of his gun's bullets until he is left with only a handful of rounds. Soon, news reaches Rictor, and the boss sends his henchmen, Effie and Dane, to take them down. Miles and Nix break into Schism's mainframe and discover that Rictor plans to expand Schism into a global franchise. Miles sends the data to his email, and seconds later, the henchmen locate the duo. Effie opens fire while Miles and Nix make a run for it. Nix escapes unscathed, but Miles is hit in the chest, and his bulletproof vest saves him. Effie kicks Miles around and pins his hands to the ground. Luckily, the troll manages to free one of his hands and shoots Effie in the head. Meanwhile, at the other end of the building, Dane ambushes Nix and throws the assassin down a flight of stairs. The henchman doesn't wait for her to recover and tosses Nix around. Dane whips out a hammer to finish the job, but the assassin returns to her feet and dodges his attacks. She hauls a dagger at him, but Dane catches and returns the throw. The dagger takes off 2 of Nix's fingers, and the henchman charges at her. Nix grabs a weapon from a tool shed and blocks Dane's blows, but the henchman gets the better of her and lands some hits to her head. The injured assassin spots a pack of drugs on the floor and takes a whiff. The substance gives Nix a burst of energy, and the tides swiftly turn to her favor. She hits Dane multiple times with her hammer, breaking his bones until he has no strength to fight anymore. Defeated, the henchman resolves to take them both out and breaks a gas pipe. Dane tries to start a fire with a lighter, but the device malfunctions. Right as Nix heaves a sigh of relief, Miles runs in and shoots at Dane. However, he misses and hits the gas tank, generating a fire that blasts them both away. Luckily, the duo survives the explosion, and Miles picks up Nix's severed fingers, after which they march on to Rictor's office. Meanwhile, the Schism boss calls for a chopper and takes Nova as his captive. While heading to the rooftop, Rictor runs into Stanton. The double agent tries to escape before Nix finds him, but the Schism boss unalives him before he can leave. While Rictor is distracted, Nova leaves a distress message on the wall for Miles. In the following scene, Miles and Nix reach Rictor's office and discover the boss has escaped. There, they're surrounded by dozens of armed guards. At this point, Miles only has 1 bullet left, and the Schism men far outnumber them. Cornered, Nix decides to sacrifice herself for Miles and tells him to take down Rictor. The assassin attaches a bomb to her waist and charges at the guards head-on. She opens fire and takes down a handful of them while incurring multiple shots. Eventually, the bomb detonates and takes out her and all the guards. Moments later, an injured Miles limps around in search of Nova and finds her distress message asking him to head to the roof. There, he finds Rictor holding his ex at gunpoint and asks the mafia boss to let her go. When he refuses, Miles dramatically fires his last bullet at Rictor. However, he badly misses the shot and is left defenseless. Rictor returns fire and hits Miles in the shoulder. The coder falls but returns to his knees and limps toward the boss. Rictor shoots him multiple times, but Miles fights through the pain and keeps going. Nova takes advantage of the distraction and frees herself from the boss's grasp. She lands some solid hits, but Rictor takes her down in a flash. Luckily, Miles uses the opportunity to close the distance and smacks the boss with his gun hands. Rictor tries to run away, but Miles catches up and throws the Kingpin off the building. Rictor hangs onto the pavement for dear life and claims unaliving him wouldn't change anything, as Schism is now a global franchise and would live on without him. Right then, Miles pulls out Nyx's severed middle finger and feeds it to Rictor. He smacks the boss's hands away, and Rictor finally falls, ending his tyranny for good. Miles goes into hemorrhagic shock thanks to his injuries and daydreams about kissing Nova. Weeks after the incident, Miles recovers and learns that Schism has continued their operations. Nova creates a comic based on his adventure, and the movie ends with Miles becoming a vigilante as he hunts the other organizers behind the illicit operation. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you're new here for more amazing movie recaps, and I will see you all in the next one. Until next time, guys, take care.